When God was happy, he wrote. When God was furious, he wrote. And one day, when God was in a really bad mood, he did something enormously stupid. God smashed the world to pieces. It's coming back to me. God was punished. On that day, I understood that God wasn't all-powerful. Since then, I've never seen him again. The Storyteller. The game. Ophelia was dazzled. If she just risked a peek from under her parasol, the sunshine came at her from all directions. Down it streamed from the sky, back it bounced off the varnished wood promenade. It made the entire ocean sparkle, and lit up the jewellery of every courtier. She could see enough, however, to establish that neither Berenild nor Aunt Rosaline were any longer by her side. Ophelia had to face facts. She was lost. For someone who had come to the court with the firm intention of finding her place, things weren't looking too good. She had an appointment to be officially presented to Farouk. If there was one person in the world who absolutely mustn't be kept waiting, it was certainly this family spirit. Where was he to be found? In the shade of the large palm trees? At one of the luxurious hotels lining the coast? Inside a beach hut? Ophelia banged her nose against the sky. She'd been leaning over the parapet to look for Farouk, but the sea was nothing but a wall. A vast moving fresco in which the sound of the waves was as artificial as the smell of sand and the distant horizon. Ophelia readjusted her glasses and looked at the scenery around her. Almost everything here was fake. The palms, the fountains, the sea, the sun, the sky, and the pervading heat. The grand hotels themselves were probably just two-dimensional facades. Illusions. What else could be expected when one was on the 5th floor of a tower, when that tower overlooked a city, and when that city hovered above a polar arc whose actual temperature never rose above -15 degrees? The locals could distort space and stick illusions all over the place, but there were limits to their creativity. Ophelia was wary of fakes, but she was even more wary of individuals who used them to manipulate others. That was why she felt particularly ill at ease among the courtiers now jostling her. They were all mirages, the masters of illusionism. With their imposing stature, pale hair, light eyes, and clan tattoos, Ophelia felt even more diminutive, more dark-haired, more near-sighted, and more of a stranger than ever in their midst. Occasionally, they would look snootily down at her. No doubt they were wondering who this young lady, desperately trying to hide under her parasol, was, but Ophelia certainly wasn't going to tell them. She was alone and without protection. If they discovered that she was engaged to Thorn, the most hated man in the whole city, she'd never save her skin or her mind. She had a cracked rib, a black eye, and a slashed cheek following her recent ordeals. Best not to make things even worse. At least these mirages proved useful to Ophelia. They were all moving towards a jetty promenade on pilings which, due to a pretty convincing optical effect, gave the illusion of extending over the fake sea. By squinting, Ophelia realized that the sparkling she saw at the end of it was the light reflecting on a huge glass and metal structure. This jetty promenade wasn't just another trompe-l'oeil. It was an actual majestic palace. If Ophelia stood any chance of finding Farouk, Berenild, and Aunt Rosaline, it would be over there. She followed the procession of courtiers. She wanted to be as unobtrusive as possible, but hadn't taken her scarf into account. With half of it coiled around her ankle and the other half gesticulating on the ground, it gave the impression of a boa constrictor in full courting display. Ophelia hadn't managed to make it release its grip. Delighted as she was to see her scarf thriving again after weeks of separation, she'd have preferred not to shout that she was an animist from the rooftops. Not until she'd found Berenild, at least. Ophelia tipped her parasol further over her face when she went past a newspaper kiosk. The papers all carried the headline, "Time's Up for Dragon."